This story happened back in January of 1998. I remember it being a cold winter but no snow. This particular day, it was just wet fog clinging to everything like it didn't want to let go. There were four of us, me, Danny, Mark, and Lisa, all in our early 20s and stupid enough to think curiosity counted as preparation. We weren't real urban explorers, but we wanted to be. We'd watched a few VHS documentaries, read some message board posts, and decided that we could do that as well. The place we chose to explore was an abandoned state asylum outside our hometown of Topsfield, shut down a few years prior and left to rot. No permits, no permission, just a borrowed high-8 camcorder and a flashlight that flickered when it felt like it. Getting in was easier than it should have been. A chain-link fence lay folded inward like someone had already given up trying to keep people out. One of the side doors had been pried open long ago. The building exhaled when we stepped inside. Stale air, mildew, something faintly chemical. The camera whined as it started recording, and that sound felt too loud in the silence. We wandered for a while, joking louder than necessary. Peeling paint, rusted gurneys, wheelchairs tipped over like they'd fled in a hurry. The deeper we went, the colder it got. Eventually, we found an administrative office. Filing cabinets lined the walls, most of them gutted. Papers littered the floor, curled and yellowed. Danny pulled open a drawer that still had folders neatly arranged inside. One stood out. Patient 0112. I remember the way my stomach dropped when I held it. The paper inside was brittle, typed and retyped, corrections scribbled over in pen. It described a man admitted in the 1950s, deemed unfit for society due to auditory hallucinations, dissociative episodes, and what they called compulsive transcription. He claimed to hear voices in the walls, said they spoke from a different place in time. One line stuck with me. Patient believes he has the ability to live forever. At the bottom of the file was his room assignment. Room 312, third floor. We noticed the key wall then, hooks lining a wooden board behind the desk. Every hook was empty except one, a single brass key, tagged and dusty. 312. None of us laughed after that. We moved through the hospital more quietly after that, the camera light cutting narrow tunnels through the dark. Handwritten signs still hung on walls. Restraint rooms, medical equipment left mid-use. A child's drawing taped inside a locker. The third-floor hallway felt wrong, narrower, closer. When we reached room 312, the door was intact, paint flaking but solid. I unlocked it. The smell hit first, old sweat, mold, something metallic. Every inch of the room was covered in writing, walls, ceiling, floor, scratched, scrawled, carved with fingernails or whatever they could find. Overlapping phrases, symbols, and dates in time from past and present. Most of it was nonsense. Some of it wasn't. We all agreed to leave. Immediately. That's not a lie. Then Mark noticed something taped to the back of the door. A yellowing note, official letterhead. Patient 0012 has been relocated to solitary confinement. Cell B6, basement level. Nobody spoke. Mark wanted footage. Lisa called him insane. Danny backed her up. I just stared at the words, feeling like something had already decided for us. We compromised in the dumbest way possible, finding the basement stairs and deciding there. When we reached the stairwell, the air changed again. The steps descended into a darkness the flashlight didn't seem eager to touch. Lisa and Danny stopped at the top. "If you go down," Lisa said, "we're going back to the car." Mark didn't hesitate. Sadly, neither did I. The basement was quieter than the rest of the building, like sound didn't want to travel there. Cells lined the hallway, thick doors, observation slots. Every one of them stood open, except B6. That's when we heard it. A voice, human, soft, too close to be imagined. It sounded like it came from inside cell B6. I didn't want to, but I tried to open the door. Locked. We turned back, nerves fraying, when something inside the cell shifted up against the door. Mark stepped up to the door. "Hello?" he asked. Nothing. We both retreated back down the hall. Once we reached the bottom of the stairwell, we heard the rusty creaking of a cell door opening. I shone my flashlight to the end of the hall, and sure enough, emerging from the cell was a tall, malnourished person in a straitjacket. It appeared his face was wrapped in a burlap sack and cinched with a frayed rope. It stood at the back of the hall, facing us for what seemed like forever. Then it began slowly taking steps towards us. We ran. There was no coordination, no brave last stand, just panic and the slap of shoes on concrete as we tore back up the stairs. The thing's footsteps were wrong, too fast and too heavy, the straitjacket rasping as it moved, Mark screaming behind me as he stumbled. I grabbed him without slowing, dragging him the last few steps as the thing slammed into the stairwell door below, rattling the metal like it wanted to tear it off its hinges. We didn't stop until we burst out into the fog-soaked parking lot where Lisa and Danny were already running toward the break in the fence, terror written plain on their faces. We all clambered into the car. The engine turned over on the third try. As we peeled away, tires spitting gravel, I looked back at the asylum one last time. For just a second, I swear I saw a figure standing in the fog-choked yard, head cocked in recognition. It wasn't until days later, when I went back and looked at the footage, that I could confirm what we saw was real. To this day, the old asylum still stands in the same place, which makes me wonder if patient 00112 or whatever we saw is still in there somewhere.